All right, everybody, welcome back to the Solutions Central, powered by Two Footed Solutions. Now, I have a special guest today. Super excited to be here. One of my good friends, best friends, Mr. Deric Privette. Deric, welcome to the Solutions Central podcast. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Now, we've been working together for a number of years, right? We've started several businesses in our day. Before we dive into your brand, before we dive into what we've created, let's talk a little bit about who you are, what makes you so unique, so special, and where you fit into this world. So, first and foremost, who are you, right? Where do you come from? What do you do for work? Talk to the audience about who Mr. Deric Privette is.
Okay. Well, yeah, my name is Deric Privette. I am from North Carolina, born and raised. Um, I went to college with Austin at Fayetteville State University. That's actually how we met, playing football together. That's how we were able to connect. Um, I currently work in the corrections field. I've worked in law enforcement in some form or fashion over the past, I'd say, 12 years. Um, I'd say that the what's driving me right now is society itself, the way things are going today in society, as far as um, the I say the world's in shambles right now. So it seems like everybody's trying to look for something to mask the mask their problems, mask their emotions, and a lot of folks are looking towards substance abuse for that. Um, Substance abuse has played a big part in my life. Not so much for me, maybe just a little bit, but for my family in general, with family and friends. Growing up as a kid, I grew up in a home where my dad was there part of the time. He stayed pretty drunk a lot. There'd be times when he wouldn't come home and we wouldn't see him for days on end. And then when he did come home, he was pretty belligerent, and sometimes it led to him putting his hands on my mother. Again, I was very, very young at this time. I was probably 3 or 4 years old, but I still do remember those moments. Um, Fast forward 6 or 7 years later, I was probably about 9 or 10 years old before when I realized that my other folks in my family had some issues as well. Um, I had a an uncle who was, come to find out, he had become a crack addict. We grew up in a very low income area. Grew up, right next to my grandmother, so there wasn't a lot of money. So he kind of fell to the wayside, and he got caught up with the wrong people. And next thing you know, he was hooked on crack, and it led to him, stealing from family, stealing from friends. Um, Ultimately, it ended him in prison for, I'd say, 6 years. And then in 2006, when he got out of prison, he passed away. And ultimately, he passed away because of liver failure, which we come to find out was because of all the drugs that he had used in his life. Fast forward just a little bit longer, say 2009, 2010, right around the time I met Austin, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. My brother, um, I had learned that he had kind of gotten caught up with the wrong group, had gotten, I wouldn't say the wrong group, but he had started gaining influence from the wrong people. One of those people being my father. Again, my dad was never there for me growing up, but for some reason, my brother leaned towards him for guidance more than he did my mother, who had been there our entire life. I still don't understand that today, but again, that's him. He decided that's what he wanted to do, and ultimately led him down the path he took, and I'm here right now. Um, so yeah, he decided he was going to go and be with my dad and follow my dad's footsteps and stuff, and it ultimately led to my brother becoming a heroin addict. It first started off with prescription drugs, or well, actually it was marijuana first, then it became prescription drugs, and then it was heroin, And then he dabbled in a couple other drugs as well. And I saw it take a toll on not only him, but I saw it take a toll on my mom, my stepfather, myself, my youngest brother. It really drove a wedge in between the family because, it's kind of like we love him and we want to be able to take care of him, but we can only take care of him so much before he has to take care of himself. Um, so yeah, uh, we never really, we were never really able to help him. Thank God he's still here today. He's actually in recovery now. I'd say probably 2 months. Still got a long ways to go. We're very hopeful. But yeah, and then of course after that, I mean, I've got a ton of friends, some really close friends with both me and Austin that we met along the way that, ultimately they succumbed to drugs. I mean, they got hooked up with the wrong crowd, whether it be just, socially going out and partying, or, maybe they had an injury and next thing you know, they were hooked on Oxycontin, Percocets, Vicodin, trying to mask the pain. And ultimately it cost them their lives. But yeah, that's why I'm here. I just want to be able to say that I made a difference, which is why I have created the brand that I did. And that was something that we talked about in 2016 when we first come about this whole business venture. Was I wanted to create a platform to bring awareness to drug abuse, whether it be alcohol or the hard drugs, because a lot of people just there's a lot of people that are afraid to ask for help. And if I can offer the help without them asking it, if I can just say, hey, you know what, you might be going through it, we're not going to force it down your throat. We're not going to make you uncomfortable with it. But if you feel the need to, um, if you're afraid to ask for the help, we're going to provide the help without you asking for it. And that's kind of what we did here. Was we wanted to create a platform that was going to, raise awareness, raise up some money, so that we can kind of try to um, gear it towards research and treatment and stuff for some of these folks that maybe just don't have the means to be able to do it for themselves.
I love that. First, thank you for your transparency, right? I know your story. I know your family. I know your heart. And it isn't easy talking about pains from the past, especially on how they've influenced you today. Now, is it safe to say, is it fair to say that what you've gone through in the past is the reason why you went the criminal justice corrections officer route?
I would say yes. Originally, when I was in high school, I had a teacher named Mr. Spencer who was a retired state highway patrolman. And he was such an influence on me because it was right before I was ready to go to college. And at one time, I was like, I'm going to go be a teacher. I was going to, I was going to help bring these kids up. Um, and he was like, man, maybe you should look into law enforcement the way of, maybe you should look into this stuff. I think it could be really good for you. And I went to college and I grew interest in it. And ultimately I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And I've pretty much worked every phase of the criminal justice system you can possibly think of, whether it be corrections, reentry, probation. I've worked just about every phase of it, so I know every step in which someone needs to take in order to be successful, because I've seen it. I've definitely used my influence as far as what I've learned from my own personal experiences to assist folks that I've dealt with on a daily basis in my work life, in helping them to get to where they need to be.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. That's taking lemons and turning it into lemonades and then being able to use that lemonades for good at so many different levels in so many different states at so many different sectors of the criminal justice. I love that, man. Honestly, yeah, kudos to you to what you've come through, come from, and then where you're at today. I can't prop you up high enough because again, I know your heart and I know your struggle and what you've been able to do with that struggle is beyond admirable. You mentioned one thing that was interesting. We might have to do a follow-up podcast on this, but the opiate addiction from athletes' perspective. Obviously, you and I played sports. We both were injured and we both were prescribed various copious amounts of prescription drugs. So we'll have to follow up with this with a full-on podcast on that, because that in and of itself is it's a it's a crazy world for those that don't know about it.
Absolutely.
Before we dive into your brand, the fan movement, what we've created and where we're going with it in the future, let's talk a little bit about your passions. What are you into these days? Anything that you care to share about what makes you tick?
Well, I mean, I am finally, um, I moved to California in 2016 and trying to find myself, really just trying to figure out where I fit in this world, in today's society. And it helped me a whole lot. I did a lot of growing from 2016 to 2020 when living in California. And it ultimately taught me that I could do it. Anything that I wanted to do, if I were able to put the effort towards it and the time, that I could do it. And that's pretty much what I've done since I got to California. Was I put the best foot forward in everything that I did to make sure that I was as successful as possible. And whether it was, when I first got there, when I was working at the halfway house, to, going from there to the private prison, to the federal government, to where I am now, I've just really, strive to do the best that I can. I'll never forget something that my stepfather told me before I moved to California. And it was right when I was thinking about going, and I talked to my mother about it, and my stepfather, he's he was not a very vocal person. Rest in peace, by the way. But he told me, and I'll never forget it. He said, and everybody calls me Bubba back home from North Carolina. And he said, Bubba, he said, I'll tell you what, he says, if you're going to do this, he said, all I ask is one thing. And I said, what's that? He says, I ask that you go out there and you do it to the best of your ability and don't leave anything on the table. And that's exactly what I did. And everything that I've done from 2016 to 2023 today, I have done everything in my power to do everything to the best of my ability, to not only represent myself, but this company, my family, my friends, uh, the Lord Jesus Christ. I've done everything in my power to make sure that everybody knows where I come from and what I represent.
Love that. Power there. There's a whole lot of power in that statement. And yes, RIP Mike, man. He was a hell of a guy. All right, let's shift focus a little bit, right? Let's dive into what the fan movement is, why we started it, what we were able to accomplish, a lot of that good stuff. So, first, in your words, what is the fan movement? What does it represent?
Well, for me, in 2016, I think it changed a little bit, from what it was when I first came on to what it is now. In 2016, I was probably one of the most unhealthiest I'd ever been, if not the most unhealthiest I'd ever been in my entire life. When Austin asked me to move to California, um, he said, "Hey, man," he goes, "Look, I'm building this. I want to build this platform." He says, "And I think he'd be great for it." He says, you know, "Move to California. We'll work on some things." And I was like, "Okay, I did." So I moved out to California, and I really started to work on myself, physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. And I got to myself where I was probably the healthiest I've ever been. Obviously, I've kind of let myself go a little bit. Pandemic's probably got a big deal to do with that, with a lot of gyms closing and where I was living at the time during the
A lot of
pandemic.
people can say that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, now I'm in a spot now where, if my physical health is not the best, maybe my mental health and my psychological health is probably the best it's ever been. Um, I think that when we started FAM originally, it was mainly just a fitness brand. It was something we were like, hey, we're passionate about fitness. We're passionate about getting healthy. Let's use our health mindedness to try to build this platform. And then it grew ultimately to, you know what, maybe it doesn't have to be about fitness all the time. Maybe it can be just about doing good for other people, because not everybody's into fitness. Not everybody's an athlete. I mean, if you look at the United States as a whole, I mean, we have one of the highest morbidity rates in the entire world. So, I mean, that shows you that not everybody's into health and fitness. So over the years, I think it's changed a lot to where we have kind of gotten away from the fitness a little bit less, a little bit more, and we've kind of geared it more towards just trying to be more philanthropic, get out, be in the community, be a face for the company, help the folks in need, bring awareness to these brands that we had created. And I feel like that's ultimately what we did. You know, FAM probably saved my life, honestly. I mean, because I don't know honestly where I'd be physically if it wasn't for FAM. I mean, when I got to California, I was 350 pounds, and I mean, granted, I was an athlete, but I was nowhere near I was 10 years before that. And again, Austin, I don't know if you know this, but thank you, because you, like I said, you saved my life, honestly, because I don't know that I'd be here today if it wasn't for you.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's the first time that we've discussed this, but that means a lot to me, man. Your transformation, what you were able to do in such a short period of time. I still remember those before and after pictures, and every time they pop up on my news feed on We Need the Social, I get goosebumps. I get in goosebumps now just thinking about what you were able to accomplish in such a short period of time. Truly remarkable, and it's a true testament to who you are as a person. You know, you wear your heart on your sleeves. You're willing to inflect and then run towards those shortcomings that you dive into or you recognize in yourself, and you make the change. What we were able to accomplish with Fan Movement, we'll dive into here in a second, but thank you for giving me a shot. Thank you for coming out to California, uprooting your life and taking a shot on living this West Coast lifestyle. We accomplished a hell of a lot in a very short period of time, and it was just cementing a friendship that I think will last a lifetime. So I appreciate you saying those words. It truly is eye-opening, and it means a lot to me. And I want to say thank you back for taking a shot, coming out here and trying to take on this whole beast that was the Fan Movement. Now, for those that don't know what FAM stands for, it's fitness activist mentality, right? So shortened FAM for family, pretty simple and self-explanatory. But the activist portion was, I would say, one of the biggest pieces of the movement in and of itself. What did we accomplish, right? I know we did a lot of really cool things for some segments, demographics of the population, San Diego, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. What is it that we did, and how did we go about doing it?
Uh, what we did. Well, again, it gave people. I think we gave people an outlet. I think that, and I know that, just from the time when it first started, the people who reached out to me about what we were doing, when it was even when it was just the health, the health side of it, just getting me healthy, the attraction and the traction that we were getting because of that, because people were like, oh my goodness, this is pretty awesome, because they were seeing me change like right before their eyes, and I was like, I'm not seeing anything because I'm seeing myself every day, and people were like, oh my god, you're like a different person, and then people were like, okay, well, what are you doing? And then I'm starting to tell people, and we're talking to people about what we're doing, and then all of a sudden it was, well, let's build this brand. And here's, Country Boy Strong. And I'm going to I go to the local gas station or I go to the local Target, and this random dude walks to me and goes, hey, man, that's a pretty sweet shirt. What's that shirt? Where'd you get that? And I'm like, well, let me tell you the story. So then it created this conversation piece where, it was, and I don't know if it was intentionally. I don't think I meant for it to be that way. It was more or less at the time, it was like, hey, it's a cool brand that's going to, bring a lot of awareness and maybe make a little bit of money on the end. But really, it kind of like it kind of put us on a platform. It actually built the platform for us, because we didn't have to actually go out and say, hey, this is my brand. People are like, oh, that's cool. What does that mean? And I still get that today. I still wear the shirts that I had from 2017. I still wear them to the gym. And Austin can be a testament to this. Is I still get people stopping me today, and they're like, dude, they're like, it's a sweet shirt, it's a sweet brand, or they're like, Jesus, you're freaking huge, you're massive. And I'm like, and I'm like, it's nice to hear that because I haven't, I don't hear it nearly as much as I used to, but it's nice. And again, it creates that opportunity for that discussion. I mean, I feel like that's ultimately what we wanted to do with the brands was create that avenue for discussion for us to be able to talk about it because I mean, I'm not the greatest talker in the world when it comes to, salesmanship and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're willing to talk to me, I'll talk back and I'll tell you everything I'll tell you everything I know about it. And if I don't know everything, then I'm going to reach to someone. I'm say, hey man, can you explain this a little better? Because I'm not, that familiar with it. But yeah, ultimately that's what it did. It helped to create a platform for us to be able to share this stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the best and I think coolest things about you is that you lead every aspect of life from authenticity and the most genuine place possible, right? You're not gonna take shortcuts. You're not going to tell somebody how it isn't. You're gonna tell them how it is. And that's going to be how you live your life every single day. And I love that. I love the fact that in essence, apparel for a purpose was where we started, right? Wearing unique, one of a kind designs tied to a philanthropic mission, tied to a charity in some cases where purchases, direct donations were going to said charity. So I love that. And the fact that you tied your brand, Country Boy Strong, Country Girl Strong, to substance abuse. Obviously having that personal connection to that was very powerful for me. Obviously I had my own charity as well, but I love the fact that you chose something that was so near and dear to your heart and so personal to you. One other thing that I want to mention as far as the fan movement, and then we'll transition into your Country Boy Country Girl Strong. Talk to me about the platform that we generated, where we're able to generate donations from local businesses, local residents, and then in turn, we were going into the homelessness population, both in San Diego, LA, and in Las Vegas, and then providing those donations directly to those in need. Tell me anything. Do you remember that? Do you remember how and how you felt while doing that?
Absolutely. I mean, like you said earlier, every time I get a flashback on Facebook of a reel of us out in the community, doing those things, it's like, man, like it was bigger than us even then. I couldn't believe we were doing this. This person from a small town of like 300 people, and Austin, a person from a huge city, and we were out just making this impact on these people. I mean, it was amazing to see the outreach. It was amazing to see the support that we got. At the time, Austin was working at the vitamin shop at the Vitamin Exchange there in San Diego, and we kind of had it set up for these drop-off locations. For it's like, hey, look, we just made these on the go, Facebook flyers. Like, hey, drop off your clothes if you have anything that you're not really if you're not using, you want to get rid of, or you want to donate just out of the kindness of your heart. We had these drop off locations, and the next thing you know, we had like 30 bags, and there was clothes everywhere. And then we had, food coming from all these different places, and they were, giving this food and telling us, hey, look, we're not going to charge you anything for this. This is just out of the kindness of our heart. And I believe that was what, Pepperidge Farms.
Shout out Pepperidge Farms for your donations.
Yeah,
Yeah, huge
absolutely.
donations. We fed so many families and so many people with those donations. So shout out to them.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I'm pretty sure when they gave the donation, because they gave us a huge amount of like stuffing. I'm pretty sure it was like stuffing and it was right around Thanksgiving time. And we had just went down to San Diego, and we were right down in the heart of the homeless community there. And we went to Father Joe's Village, and we're like, hey, look, this is what we have. And the lady's like, oh, we'll gladly take that because, the holidays are coming up and we have to feed all these people. And this will be a great way for us to feed them. So we gave it away gladly. To see the appreciation that we got from a lot of the homeless people in San Diego and LA and Las Vegas, to see how appreciative they were of us, to know that we provided them a meal that they might not have gotten otherwise, was very, very it was an awesome feeling to know that we had that kind of impact on people. Um, and then when we did the clothes, I mean, we literally would just take out a table, fold up table, and set it up behind the Tahoe, and just lay them out. And people were just coming in swarms, and they were just like, "Hey, can I have this?" And I'm like, "Take it. If you can use it, take it." I'm not here to say you can only take 3 or 4. If you feel like you need it for you or your family, I said, take it, because that's what we're here for. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more. And it was, I mean, we were able to do it quite a few times. We were able to give back to the community with clothing and food and stuff like that. But it was just an amazing feeling to see it happen, and to know that, these two people, two out of billions of people, could have that kind of impact on a an epidemic so huge, especially here in the United States, that I feel like our we should be taken care of on a government level. But I don't feel like we're so quick to want to do for everyone else and not take care of our own. And for us to be able to put a little dent in it was very, very gratifying and satisfying.
Yeah, to this day, I still remember those. I think we did 5 or 6 of them, and setting up that table, having those pre-packaged bags where there was water and some food, and then going through these encampments and dropping them off, and having the conversations, learning why these people were living on the street, what was their reasoning, what was their path to them being there. It will forever change me as a person. It forever changed the business and where we took this thing now at global scale, helping as many people from that philanthropic entrepreneur perspective. And yeah, honestly, I think we should restart that, whether it be in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, where you're from out there in Bunn, Lewisburg area, here in San Diego, or really anywhere and everywhere else that people have a need and would like to make a difference. So yeah, I love that, and appreciate the dive in. I had forgotten about the Father Joe's Village aspect of that. That was really cool. Right at that Thanksgiving time period, being able to donate so much stuffing and other goods, specifically for Thanksgiving meals. I thought that was really cool. Now, let's dive into Country Boy Strong, Country Girl Strong, your brand in particular, right? Talk to me a little bit about the why behind the brand. What does Country Boy Strong represent?
Uh, I think Country Boy Strong and Country Girl Strong represents. I don't want to say the little man, but in a sense, the little man. When you think country, you think very desolate, isolated area. Up in the hills, down in the holler. One stop light town, one stop sign town. Maybe have a bank, a post office, and maybe a small, red and white grocery store. Which in a sense is where I grew
That's
up.
bun
I
in
grew
a
up in
T.
a I grew up in a small town of about 360 people. The high school was the biggest thing in the town. Um, there was, I think there was like 160 people in my graduating class, maybe. So for me, Country Boy and Country Girl Strong the it was a way to relate to the little people, the people that aren't in the big cities and aren't able to, be in the mix with everybody else and make them feel involved. Growing up as a kid, we did a lot of farm work. I mean, I did a lot of baling hay, and doing tobacco as far as laying irrigation pipe and burning tobacco, and doing stuff like that on the farm with my stepfather's uncle. So I knew at a very young age what hard work was, and I knew at a very young age that I did not want to do that kind of hard work for a living. So um, you know, and I would look in amazement as a kid and watching my uncle, and my stepdad, and his cousins just felt like they were just Superman, because they were so strong and able to do all kinds of things. And I remember my stepfather grabbing like hay twine, and hay twine is like this rope that they use to tie bales of hay together, and it's super super strong, and that's why they use it, because it can hold these bales together, and these bales can weigh 75 pounds. But you can actually grab these handle this twine, and you can carry the bale wherever you want to go, in a sense. And he was probably the only person I ever saw that could just grab that twine and just and break it in half. And I was like, oh man, and he's like, that's what working on the farm will get you. It'll get you. So in a sense, to me, that was Country Boy Strong. That was, um, I remember being in college, and Austin, you can probably remember this. We had Larry McDonald. Larry McDonald was from a small town of Mebane, North Carolina. He had never lifted a weight in his life. He said the most he had ever put on his bar when he was in high school was 225 pounds, was the most he ever put on the weight on the bar. But he said the only thing he did in the summer was help his granddad work on the farm. Come time for weightlifting for football, guess what? Little Larry was the strongest guy on the team. Little Larry was bench pressing like 500 pounds and had never seen that kind of weight before until he got into a weight room with that kind of weight. And that to me was what Country Boy Strong was. It was like, yeah, you might be able to lift 500 pounds or 600 pounds, but can you do this? Can you do that? Because there's a lot of folks that are really, really strong in the weight room that can't do nearly half the things that an average Joe can, who's doing that hard labor out in the field, working in that field, working in the mill, that kind of stuff. So to me, that was what Country Boy Strong was. And that's ultimately what I wanted it to stand for. I wanted it to be, that small, I want it to I wanted it to be for the small people, but as a whole, I wanted everybody to feel like they could be inclusive, because I mean, I've been I've been just about everywhere in the United States, and there's country people everywhere you go. Even the places where you don't think they are, they
Yeah.
are. I never thought I would have seen country people in California, but I did. My
Hell yeah.
fiance is actually from the most countryest part of California. I feel like of Southern California, there probably is, in Eastern County, San Diego, where the real rednecks of California are, I feel like. So yeah, and then, of course, I lived in West Virginia, and West Virginia was full of hillbilly rednecks. They were just, big old burly, long beard, just strong dudes. And I was like, you know, um, so yeah, I mean, in a sense, that's what
Love
I
that.
was. I was this really big dude. I was really, really strong. And I was like, I can build this brand and, be able to touch all the points in which I want to focus on, whether it be the health side of it or the substance abuse. I can use this and, to only grow the awareness of it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I feel like that's what we did.
I love that. Love that. And the beauty thing about your brand, both the Country Boy and the Country Girl Strong, it it evokes American pride. It evokes underrepresented communities. I mean, it is for the little people. It is for everyone, but ultimately those who are out here who support America, who support um, overcoming challenges, who support adversity, fighting through in order to continue living and prospering with their life. That's who you are, and the brand that you created, it is emulated based off of what you've gone through. So again, kudos to you for all of the changes that you've been able to do. Kudos to you for the brand you've been able to create, and kudos to you for talking about those experiences, talking about your pain points, and then doing something about them. What I'm going to
Absolutely.
do is I'm going to plug the fan movement shop. If anybody out there is interested in supporting the fan movement, Country Boy Strong, Country Girl Strong, please, please go take a look. New items are going to be added daily. New items are going to be added weekly. If there's any items that you'd like in terms of for us to create so you can support, let us know. We can do so and get them up there. Ultimately, what we're able to do from a items purchase standpoint, that's as much of what we're going to be able to do to help communities across the country. So anybody out there interested in supporting the line, Country Boy Strong, the fan movement as a whole, please, please go to the shop, pick what you like, and wear it proudly. All right, Deric, Mr. Bubba, any final words? Couple
Uh,
minutes.
Again, Austin, thank you for having me today. tonight, it's nice to have this conversation. I feel like it's been a while since I've had this conversation with anybody. You know, it's and brings back a lot of memories as far as the good times that we had together with building this company and building this bond that we have together now. It also just brings up a lot of fond memories that I have growing up, growing up in a small town and being with family and being with friends and stuff like that. So I thank you for that. I am very, very much looking forward to seeing where this goes, and hoping to see there's going to be a tremendous amount of growth, as I feel it will be. But in time, only in time will we tell. But again, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come on, Austin, to share my why, to give me this platform for me to be able to share all this information with everyone that's listening.
Love it. Deric, thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Always a pleasure, my guy. Love you, dude. Thank you for your transparency. Yeah, I think we're going to create a lot of really great things. We have a ton of memories over these 15 years, and we've got a lifetime to continue providing value, attacking these pain points, and building this fan movement, country boy and country girl strong. So thank you again for your time. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening, following along, and we appreciate your support. This is the Solution Central podcast, powered by Two Footed Solutions, signing off. Peace.